Names known throughout history get summoned to a fantasy world to fight each other. We have warriors from the Roman Empire, Japanese samurai times, and World War I and II. These being only some of the different time periods that are introduced in the show. There's also the fantasy element with creatures like dragons, elves, dwarves, and many more. This show doesn't hold back and delivers a supercharged punch of pure chaotic entertainment. If you like history a lot, then I'm sure you'll enjoy the show. However, prepare yourself for carnage as a lot of the dark subjects and themes are introduced into the show from the start. The show has 12 episodes and it came out in 2016. There's talks on the internet that there'll be a second season coming out this year, but I'm not sure about the validity of these statements. At least this gives me hope that there is a continuation in the works. Either way, let's get into the story.
Wait, before we get on to the story, only 10% of you are subscribed, so click that subscribe button. We make these quality videos once a week, so make sure to not miss out. Now that you 100% have clicked the button, I'll let the video continue. Thanks.
The premise of the story is simple, however the execution is what makes it distinguishable. Without spoiling anything, it's simply a good against evil story revolving around two godly entities summoning historical figures to fight for their side. I use the word godly very loosely as one of them is an old man that reads newspapers and the other is a younger woman on a laptop. Both the laptop and newspapers give them information about what's happening in the fights. The story follows the drifters that are on the good side, with our protagonist being Shimazu Toyoshiya. There are two other main protagonists that are with him throughout the whole show, them being Nasu Suketaka, Yoichi, and Oda Nobunaga. Sorry for messing up the names. We'll go into deeper detail about them when talking about the characters. The story starts off with Toyoshiya as he's fighting in the Battle of Sekigahara, this being the last battle he took part in historically. After sustaining deadly injuries and scaring away his enemies with his fierce combat prowess, he's left as the last of his clan in the battlefield. While walking towards the city where he's planning to meet his uncle, he comes into a sudden realization. He's now in a wide hallway with multiple doors on each side. There's also a man in the middle reading a newspaper. While he's confused, he starts confronting the man, however suddenly a door starts dragging him into itself. This transports him into a fantasy world while he's still bleeding from his previous battle. This is a short description of what happens in the first 9 minutes and 55 seconds of the show. Next, let's talk about the characters. There's a large number of characters, the most important ones being Toyoshiya, the fearless and honorable samurai. He perceives death in battle as honorable and the murder of defenseless people to be unjust. He has a strong moral compass, even going as far as honoring his enemies. He does this by giving them a burial of their head after he severs it in battle. If he believes he owes a favor to someone, he'll make sure to return it. However, he prides himself a lot, meaning he won't talk about it, rather he'll act upon it. He's a little sexist as he sticks by his old views, meaning he doesn't believe women should be on the battlefield, nor does he believe in taking their lives. Toyoshiya possesses great skills in inspiring fighters, which we see later in the show, thus making him the commander of the trio. He's also the one that's not scared of death, allowing him to be the main head-on fighter as well. We also have Yoichi, the nimble and insanely skilled archer. Back in reality, he had a large number of brothers that he considered to be superior to him, who's led him to developing his skills to a very high level while still being very young. This being the most noticeable with his insane archery skills. With him being 19, he's the most nimble of the group while also having the best stamina. He's the scout and ranger of the trio. Nobunaga, the crazy strategist that has a demon's heart. Not literally, he's just not afraid to commit devious acts. While Toyoshiya doesn't want to kill the unarmed, Nobunaga does not give a shit. He's not afraid of using his knowledge of traps and gunpowder to slaughter his enemies. He has a less serious aspect to him, and honestly, that is the one we see most of the time at the start of the show. This is shown through him consistently getting into goofy arguments with Toyoshiya. In certain aspects, he treats him like his son. With his deep understanding of war, he's the strategist of the whole group. With the crazy selection of characters, I'm sure you'll at least find one character you'll like. We have some lovely characters like Adolf Hitler, Joan of Arc, Anastasia Romanova, and many others. At least one of those names should make your ears perk up a little. There's a lot of good about the characters as the show doesn't take them too seriously. This makes me give the characters a 9.5 out of 10. There's a good blend of personalities between the characters, making them more unique and entertaining. Next, let's talk about the action. I love the action of this show, and that's very important for a show that revolves around fighting and strategy to a certain extent. I guess it's like a war between the good and the bad side when simplified. However, the actual action itself is very good with changes in perspective and angles. This results in things being very snappy. This just makes it so the fights don't waste time and get right into the action. It's also very bloody with the fighters' heads being decapitated in the middle of a fight. and there's many other aspects that make it more gruesome. There's a large range of weapons from more modern times like a fighter plane, but most of the weapons are older and more traditional. However, more modern weapons are created in the later parts of the show as the war gets more intense. There's also magic and special abilities that some of the characters possess, but I'll let you discover about those yourself. While there's good diversity in the fights and the quality is good, there's little flow in the fights. Rather, it sticks to being snappy the whole time, which is the only downfall I think it has. This doesn't make the fights bad, I just think that more detail could be put into them, adding more depth. The strategic parts of the show are interesting with the different time periods combined mid-battle. This makes the action more interesting as it doesn't focus on only one aspect of the battle. With this, I give the action a 9 out of 10. It does a very good job of keeping you entertained and creating a sense of progression. Each battle becomes larger in one aspect or another, building on not only the action but the characters and story as well. The sound design of the show is very clean, allowing you to get immersed in the show. Blood spilling out of a wound right after being pierced by spears. The impact of the body hitting the ground. All those little things are very well engineered in the show. The sound effects also do a good job of conveying force and power within the fights. Music in the show is also well engineered as it'll come in as the action starts, for example. Also, the music adapts to a different atmosphere throughout the show. The only simple problem I have is that some of the sound effects are overused. The voice acting is also very good in both the sub and dub, but as always the sub is better in quality. Most aspects of the sound design are very good, so I give it a 9.5 out of 10. Side note, the music in the opening is good and also it's English for some reason. The art style of the show is very good and the animation is of good quality. While the animation itself isn't amazing, the art style makes up for it in my opinion. As the show is somewhat dark, the art represents that with the darker colors. The animation has some good aspects to it as it does a good job of enforcing impact and being creative. If a bullet is flying towards someone's head, the view will follow it from behind until it makes impact. After this, it'll snap away so you see the corpse being projected into the air from the force. That's one simple example where they decide to be creative with the perspective and construction of the fight. It's not all good as there are areas where the characters look a little stupid, but most of the time the art is at a high standard. Also, the animation of the opening is very good. Unfortunately, the opening is the best quality of animation the whole show has. There is obviously a lot that can be done to improve the animation, however I'm sure it'll be a lot better in the next season if it comes out. Overall, the animation does a good job, so I decided to give it an 8 out of 10. The whole show gets a 45.5 out of 50. The show does a good job with the characters, making them more than just projections of what they're known of historically. This makes the whole show's unique aspect very solid rather than just being a funny gimmick. There are many moments where the show tries to be funny, however in some ways it does it well while in others it doesn't. The funny elements allow for you to enjoy the action more, however they can be layered a little thick. The story and world are interesting, allowing you to slowly find out more about its bizarre world. The contrast between the different time periods and fantasy elements add a lot of enjoyment as well. In general, the show is very good in every aspect of production and storytelling, which made me remember the show up until now. Hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the crazy anime of drifters. If you've got to this point of the video, hit that like button and sub if you haven't already. You might have some different views of the show than me, and if you do, make a comment so we can talk about it. Also, if you have an anime that you'd like me to make a video about, mention it in the comments. I've already got a large list of anime, however writing down more is always good. Well, I hope you're having a wonderful day and I'll see you in the next video.